It is Wednesday, October the 17th, and we are in week three. Week three already, 8 more weeks to go after this class. This is our second lecture for the quarter for this class. And I hope you guys are doing okay. I finished grading week one. I'm in the process this week of going through completing week two by the end of the week. And you should be at this point working on your week three assignments by now. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and share my screen. Okay. And there we go. As you are all aware, this is what we call a survey course. It's a capstone, which means it's basically an opportunity for you to demonstrate what you have learned being in the program for the last 2 years or the period of time that you've been in the program, and to let you know how much further you have to go. Also to prepare you for employment opportunities that can come up. So on the right side, there's my instructor information. You all already know about all of that. And many of you already know anyway from being in other classes with me. You know about critical thinking. So now let's go right down to the written assignment. Local ethics. Describe the future of criminal justice as relates to diversity. Creates a deliverable for this assignment, sharing points to improve ethics in criminal justice, including demographics and other statistical data that is drawn from your local area. And then make sure you have your APA citations in the body, references at the end. Make sure that you do that because you're going to do some research, and make sure that you organize your papers properly, cover sheet, and so forth. So that's your written assignment. And then you see where it talks about the fact that our lecture, 6:30 to roughly 7:30, or maybe a little less than that in this class. The next lecture after today will be week six. And you must attend the live lectures or view the archive and then provide me with the keyword to get your points. You can see I have recordings down here. This is the open house of week one. After this lecture today, you'll see week three, and then you'll have the link as well, okay, to YouTube. Let's take a look at our announcement for the week. Diversity in criminal justice. I've been looking at some of the things that you guys have put in your discussion posts. Pretty good. And so diversity in criminal justice. And module 3, remember there is no textbook, so you don't have to worry about that. Then your discussion assignment, you know what that is. Remember the deadlines based on the calendar. Last night, the initial post. Saturday, the reply post. And then you can reply to as many posts you want, and citations and references are welcome, but I don't require them. Finally, complete the written assignment, local ethics, and it is due this Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you all are well aware of my motto, adversity is the springboard to success. You know what that is all about. You've heard it repeated this course. You've had it in other courses, especially those of you who I see who are here in class with me. Definitely heard me talk about this in previous classes that you had with me as well. So now let's take a look very quickly at the course calendar. And here we are. Diversity in Criminal Justice. You click on that and you'll see. Don't worry about where it says read chapter 6 to 9. That's a template. I can't get it out of there, but don't worry about it. There is no chapter 6 to 9. There's no textbook. Your initial post, working with diverse and coworkers and clients. You've done that. And then the lecture today, and then your reply post on the same topic. And then your written assignment, APA formatted. I already said that, as well as a reference page, a minimum of 1 to 2 pages. Now, whenever you do that, make sure you run your papers, always run your papers through Grammarly, because if you do a 1 page, which is fine, you're going to have citations, references, but make sure that you include your critical thinking. All of you are well aware of what that is all about at this juncture in your education here at Rasmussen. Very important, your critical thinking. Again, remember that's one of the transferable skills, and we keep harping on that over and over. And I had a student that says, you seem to be really tough on us about that. I said, I'm preparing you for the workforce, because employers have told us that that's what they'll be looking for in terms of hirees, those who are critical thinkers, those who can think on their feet, be creative, analyze, and apply situations, circumstances that they will encounter. And then next week, we won't have a lecture, or the next 2 weeks. So you'll have the assignments that you have to do, and so then the next time we have a lecture will be week 6, and that will be on the 7th of November, okay? So now let's go look at the Module 3 one more time. The assignments, and it gives the details about what you're going to be writing about. It also tells a due date. If you click on this, it tells you can get 30 points for doing everything, and it's due Sunday the 21st at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay, and make sure that you follow all of the requirements of the rubric as well as what's in the paper, and they pretty much lined up. And so again, your topic is diversity, very important topic in our area, criminal justice, and I'm going to comment about that in a little bit. I have in your discussion post as well. Okay, and then your live lecture here. So that's your assignments for the week. Now let's get to the lesson content itself, which is usually not a lot because there's no text, but you already know what it's all about. The objectives, dealing with the demographics of diversity. You already see that as part of your written assignment. And then the current state of diversity of criminal justice professionals. And again, there are our assignments there. And so now let's talk about diversity a little bit here before we adjourn. Diversity is so important in terms of recognizing, first of all, number one, it is one of our critical skills. We discussed that during the open house, week 1, and we indicate that you work with people from all areas of life, all backgrounds, beliefs, cultures, people that are different ethnic groups, Caucasian, white, black, brown people, people who don't speak the same language that you speak, people who don't even understand you. And so what is incumbent on you is to teach them about you. And then you can kind of learn from them. And we do that with mutual respect. There's no right cultural way or wrong cultural way. Now, there are some things that we kind of abhor in terms of our ethics. Like, for example, We don't believe in the government uh, taking people's lives, locking them up for their political views. We don't believe in that. What we do believe in, though, is if you're a terrorist, though, is to lock you up and put you away for the protection of all people. But for all practical purposes, you can come from another country and come to the United States, and we should learn. I have a friend who I learned who's from India, and I remember when I went to his house, there were some cultural things that were really interesting uh, to me in terms of the cooking style. One of the things was his mother was actually sitting with her legs crossed. I couldn't even do what she was doing, and she was cooking, and she was sitting up pretty high. And he was explaining to me what that was all about. And then also we had a chance to taste the foods. I told them, I says, I don't like spicy, so they had to bring it down for me. But it's not the culture, because I don't like spicy in anything. I love his Mexican food, but I do not like spicy. Give me one of my friends who was a landlord once. Her name was Guadalupe, long name, Guadalupe, blah blah blah. By the time I got to her end of her name, I forgot what I wanted to ask her. She said, "Just call me Lupe." And Lupe, I learned a lot from her in terms of the ability to speak Spanish. And being able to communicate with people, learning all kinds of things. I just heard the other day that there's a new term that is going into the dictionary in place of using Latina. A Latino, I think, is Latinx, Latinx, and explaining that that's a gender-neutral description of people who come from the culture. And so people are learning about that. So that's actually going into the dictionary. I just saw a news reporter do that this month in our city. I know I've seen on the news several times. That is Hispanic Culture Month. And we learn a lot from each other. But and then, people learn about African American people and our soul food, and our as we said, our collard greens and ham hocks. Though I don't eat ham hocks anyway, I eat turkey. But anyway, it's a different thing, and we learn about the various cultures. Boy, talking about getting me hungry. Talking about Mexican food, my favorite Mexican food is, and some of you may have heard of it, albondigas. Albondigas. It means meatballs in English, but it is not the same as the Italian meatballs. But I'm saying this is because I've had a chance to interact with people from various cultures, various backgrounds. Never make this mistake. I had a person say, so you're from Latin America, so you speak Latin. I says, no, no, it's not Latin. There's no Latin spoken language. It's Hispanic and Spanish. And so people should learn, and also people should learn this, that you don't put people in one group because of their complexion or skin color. For example, there's a difference between people from India and people from I think is it not Bangladesh? The other, I think maybe just Bangladesh. Different cultures. People learn different things. There's a different culture for the northern part of Indiana and the southern part of India as well. And so you learn all these different things. And so what I am saying to you guys is that when it comes to criminal justice, you're going to run across individuals from different backgrounds and cultures. You're going to learn that for example, I've encouraged students in the class that I taught, and I don't know if any of you guys were in this class. They don't offer it anymore, but I taught a class called Written and Oral Communication in Criminal Justice. And in that class, I stressed the importance of learning to speak Spanish, because one of the fastest growing populations in the United States of America is Hispanic. And so I said to many of my law enforcement students, learn to speak Spanish, learn to communicate with Spanish-speaking people. And then the other thing is this, is that you have to recognize that people celebrate holidays differently from you. I'm familiar with Hanukkah. I'm familiar with Yom Kippur, Kwanzaa. I'm the traditional Christmas, New Year's holidays, all of these different things. What I am trying to say is that we in the United States of America are made up of people from all over the world, immigrants in short, and that we can do well in criminal justice if we will learn how to respect the differences that people have. There is an important thing with the relationship of ethics and diversity. First of all, ethics involve operating in a just fashion, operating open-minded, operating with no preconceived notions, operating with the basis of not stereotyping people, or operating in the basis of making sure that as you do your job, you operate within the realm of the policies of your agency. For example, will find that this is a issue that I have run across many times, that there are some law enforcement people, there are some corrections people, probation, parole, all those in criminal justice, who, because they have decided to try to do something illegal, or either to submit false reports, make false statements, operating in an unethical fashion, those individuals have found themselves in the criminal justice system where they found themselves in corrections or in jail or in prison. And that's a nightmare, because if you were a law enforcement person or a corrections person and you were responsible for taking care of these individuals, especially law enforcement, you're going to have a big problem if you end up going to jail or prison, because there are going to be people there that are not very happy with you in the first place, because you may have had something to do with them being there or put there, and then you end up there. So it is. So anyway, what's the best rule? Operate in an ethical fashion. We talk about that again as one of our transferable skills. And so when you look at the cases, I'm teaching Introduction to Criminal Justice, and we're dealing with ethics in that this past week, and dealing with the way that law enforcement responds to dealing with the public or connecting with the public. Unethical individuals in criminal justice give us a bad name. We don't have to be considered as bad people, but unfortunately, people operate on the basis of their experiences. And if they have a situation when they have an unethical cop that's dealing with them, they will, even you who are not in that vein, will be considered as that. And you have to really remember that these people are not professionals in terms of judgment, but you are the professional. I would tell my students in my written and oral communication class, never use bad language or foul language when talking to a suspect or individual, because remember, you're a professional and you're to conduct yourself as an ethical, professional, and educated individual in criminal justice. And so you're going to be able to discover, unfortunately, and people say social media is a problem for law enforcement. Social media is not a problem for law enforcement. What's a problem with law enforcement is law enforcement has to respect individuals. I don't care if you are a mass murderer. You're not a piece of blank. You're a person who is due respect, and as a professional, we operate in that fashion. And a person who is a criminal, sometimes you have to get to the bottom of why these people are committing crime. For example, robberies. We recognize robbery and theft. Why did they take place? We who took my drugs and crime course, those of you already know the answer to that. It's drugs and crime go together. So again, this has to do with how we have to operate in an ethical fashion. As law enforcement will find that when you're dealing with these high drug dealers or dealing with drug dealers and gangs, you're going to come across large sums of money, large sums of drugs. You're going to have to operate and do the job the way you're supposed to. And then the last thing I'm going to say about that is this, is that the eyes are everywhere, guys. There's cameras everywhere. And to be honest with you, there are people who exploit social media. However, unfortunately, social media is, I say unfortunately, social media is able to, well, I guess fortunately, I should say, not unfortunately, catch people who are doing unethical things. I know that, for example, just throwing out a case that happened in our area here, the Laquan McDonald case, which everybody in the United States pretty much is talking about, where a police officer by the name of Jason Van Dyke was indicted, and the first time in over 50 years that happened here, and he was tried and found recently guilty of second-degree murder. Well, he's going to have to deal with that issue. But there are other officers who have big problems as well. And these are officers who were at the scene, and they submitted false reports. How do we know? Well, the false reports contradict the video. So the video incriminated the individual. I yesterday was looking at the news of a kid, this happened in Chicago, who didn't have a weapon on him, who just was stepping towards the car that this police officer was in, which wasn't he was off duty in his car, and the young man was just walking in that direction, and the guy shot him a couple times, and then he pursued the kid and chased him. Well, the kid didn't die; he was wounded. But guess what? It was already pointed out through a report to the law enforcement agencies in the area that this kid had some mental problems. He wasn't a violent person, but that he had some communication problems. And the police officer said in his call at 911 that police officer needs help, and then he said he shot the person because he came at him. Well, when you see the video totally contradicts what that officer said. So he's got an ethical dilemma. He's got a problem. And so it could be an excessive force case. So again, ethics and how you carry out your job can cause you to keep your job. Unethical activities can cause you to lose your jobs and or end up in jail. So finally, the current state of diversity in criminal justice professionals, I would just simply say needs work. Needs work. I've been in all of them. I was a police officer. I was a prosecutor. I was a defense attorney. I've been in all of these positions. And I know how it operates. but I know dirty cops because one part of my job as a police officer was internal affairs to investigate police officers who were tipping off drug dealers, who were on the payroll of drug dealers, and those kinds of things. So I've seen all of that. And so is that still going on today? Yes. I'm sure that each of you can probably find cases in your local area where these kind of things are happening. So again, how do we change it? We change it by what we're doing now in school, learning from people who have experience, such as myself and other professors that you have. You'll notice almost every professor that you've had has experience in the area that they're teaching. And because, like I said, I'm multi-discipline in the area, I can tell you from law enforcement's perspective, from the defense perspective, from the point of what happens with rogue cops or unethical cops. And, you know, I can tell you about the whole 9 yards as a prosecutor as well. But we need to roll up our sleeves and take these skills of ethics and respecting individual in the areas where we're going to be working, and learn how to treat people with respect and dignity. And many of you have said that in your discussion posts. So it's almost 7 o'clock. Any questions from either of you? Probably not in this, but if you do, fine. Or comments you want to make, you can type them in the chat box. I'll see them. I'm going to go back to the classroom. Okay. All right. Seems like you're good. All right. Now, I'm going to ask you if you can type in what you think is going to be the key word for today. Oh, good choice. Both of you had good choices. And actually, I'm going to say that the number one topic is diversity. Diversity. That's it. Ethics, you were on point there. That was my next choice. But the overall module is all about that. You say, why am I doing this to you? You got the right answer. Oh, God. Oh, both of you guys are some of my top students anyway. So I expect the best from you guys anyway. Good, hardworking, and, you know, I'm going to be tough on my really good students in a kind fashion. And now that's not to pick on you, but you know what I mean. You do know. So anyway, I'm going to say good night to you guys. And again, if you have any questions or comments, reach out to me. You know the rule about reaching out to me. By the way, before I close, I want to say this. I had a student that said to me, do I really mean that you could email me, text me, or call me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day? The answer is I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. Okay. Yes, I mean that. And because I'm really up on helping all of my students to be successful. So 7 o'clock. Good night, guys. Have a great week, 2 weeks, and I'll see you in week 6. In the meantime, you know what to do. Good night.